Reggie. What's up?
Well, we're here for you, ma'am. Definitely here for you.
Police did not arrive at this Marion County, Florida home by mistake. They were there to arrest 66-year-old Debra Newton, accused of kidnapping her own child and hiding her for decades. What followed exposed a secret that investigators say spanned a lifetime. And now, newly released body cam footage shows how that secret finally unraveled. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Hey guys, before we get into this case, I do want to talk about our partner and sponsor of On the Case, and it is a big one. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest personal injury law firm. They're a firm with more than 1,000 attorneys who have recovered $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months alone, a client in Florida received $12 million when the insurance company offered just $350,000. Then you have in Pennsylvania, another client was awarded $26 million, which was 40 times the insurer's offer. Morgan & Morgan makes it easy to fight for what you deserve. You can even start a claim from your phone. So if you're injured, you can start a claim at forthepeople.com/OTC. You can also click the link below or scan the QR code on your screen. This story is incredible, and it's decades in the making, and the body cam video you just have to see. Police walk up to a woman in Florida and tell her that the life that she's lived for 46 years is a lie. They tell her, you're not who you think you are. You're a missing person. Wow. Now that woman is Michelle Newton, and the person she knew as her mom was just arrested, accused of kidnapping her as a toddler and hiding her for more than 4 decades. Investigators say that woman, Debra Newton, is Michelle's biological mom, and that this was a parental kidnapping, not an abduction by a stranger. According to authorities, Debra disappeared with Michelle before formal custody orders were in place, and it allowed her to evade detection for decades. We have the body cam footage of the arrest, and it shows the moment that the woman, Debra Newton, is confronted while she's walking her dog, seemingly unaware her supposed secret life is over.
Well, we're here for you, ma'am. Definitely here for you.
Whoa, why?
We're waiting on the detective to get here, but we have, with all the information that we do have, you have a warrant for your arrest.
This is the story of one of the most bizarre kidnapping cases you will ever hear. A little girl vanished all the way back in 1983. She became a photo on a missing persons flyer, then a cold case. Her dad searched for decades, and now, more than 40 years later, the daughter, who never knew that she was lost, has been found, and the mom who took her is under arrest. Now, this is how a secret that lasted a lifetime finally unraveled. So, who is Michelle Newton? According to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office in Kentucky, she was a 3-year-old girl living in Louisville in the spring of 1983. Her parents, Joe and Debra Newton, were planning to move to Georgia. As WLKY-TV in Louisville reports, Debra left early with little Michelle, supposedly to start a new job and get a home ready for the family. But when Joe Newton arrived in Georgia, as he told CNN affiliate WLKY, they were gone. According to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, there was one final phone call between Joe and Debra sometime in 1984 or 1985, and then both mom and daughter simply vanished. A warrant was issued for Debra Newton's arrest for custodial interference. The search went national. As reported by People magazine, Debra Newton was even named one of the FBI's top 8 most wanted fugitives for parental kidnapping. Flyers were circulated and Michelle's picture was circulated. But as years turned into decades, the trail went cold. According to CNN, the case was actually dismissed in the year 2000 because prosecutors couldn't find Joe Newton. In 2005, the Sheriff's Office states that Michelle was removed from the National Missing Child databases, but the search wasn't entirely over. As recently as October 2024, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children highlighted Michelle's 45th birthday. They released an age-progressed image of what she might look like, and they pleaded for information. That post reads, "Today, NCMEC is sadly highlighting Michelle Newton's 45th birthday. On April 2nd, 1983, Michelle vanished from Louisville, Kentucky when she was just 3 years old. Michelle's whereabouts remain unknown to this day, and we have not given up hope. Forensic artist NCMEC created this age-progressed image showing what Michelle may look like today. The case might have stayed closed if not for a persistent family member. The sheriff's office says that in 2016, a relative asked detectives to take another look, and the case was re-indicted. Then this year, the break. According to multiple outlets, including WDRB and WFTV, a tip came into Crime Stoppers in Marion County, Florida. Someone thought they recognized a woman going by the name Sharon as the long-missing Debra Newton. A U.S. Marshals Task Force detective compared a recent photo to that 1983 image, and the sheriff's office confirms it was a match. To be certain, they collected DNA from Debra's sister in Louisville. Investigators say it came back a match to the woman in Florida. And that's what led police to a home in the Villages, Florida, near Orlando, in late November of this year. And that's where our body cam footage picks up. The video shows the surreal moment of the arrest. Debra Newton, using the name Sharon, is walking her dog. Deputies approach her calmly.
Oh, hey.
How you doing, Miss Sharon?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good.
Uh-oh, they're coming for you, Sharon.
They don't want me. They want Reggie.
What's up?
Well, we're here for you, ma'am. Definitely here for you.
Whoa, why?
We're waiting on the detective to get here, but we have, with all the information that we do have, you have a warrant for your arrest.
They're cheesy. They have to be.
Ma'am, we're not.
Oh,
You can please
oh,
back up.
oh,
You can
I'm
go home.
so sorry.
No, you're okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, go ahead and go home. Thank you.
I don't understand.
Yes, ma'am. So,
You're Sharon, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah?
all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you in handcuffs, okay?
Can I take my dog in and get my husband?
I
We'll
can
give-
take care
we'll
of
give
it.
the dog
Okay, I'll
the-
go ahead and get your husband, and we'll get your dog taken care of. But no.
You want me to hold the leash for now? I don't want to. She's, I don't think she's going to get away. Well, you don't have to do that. I'm not going to.
I got to still put you in handcuffs,
Here,
ma'am.
let me have this. I promise I will not hurt your dog under any circumstances.
We'll
I'm
do it in the
right
front,
here with
okay?
your dog. Oop, if you're in the room, you probably should move.
6370, you can go to the station.
I didn't do anything.
Try not to get your watch where it's going to pinch you or anything.
Remember that. Don't let him go because I don't have it.
4670, I'll be out of the
I don't know what they're doing.
Well, you guys, somebody's got to tell me something. What's going on? She has a warrant. With
What
all the
was the-
information, with all the information that we have.
You let you know, you don't want those
A warrant for what?
For her arrest. Well, I'm waiting on the detective who can come explain to you just everything in just 1 second, okay? Here, give me that real quick.
In case on 371, I'm guessing once if you can know the answer.
What's going on, Sharon?
I don't know anything.
I'll have the Mr. Reggie. I'll have the detective come talk to you in just 1 second, okay? I gotta make a phone call. Okay? We're not in any kind of rush. Just give us 1 minute. I understand in the middle of your driveway. If you want to just step by the truck, that's fine too. Yeah, in the shade. Just give me 1 minute.
She repeatedly says, "I don't understand and I didn't do anything." But the warrant was real. According to the Marion County Sheriff's Office arrest warrant, Debra Newton, now 66 years old, was taken into custody and charged with that decades-old felony count of custodial interference. Investigators allege that Debra Newton unlawfully removed her biological daughter from Kentucky and concealed her whereabouts from Michelle's father and law enforcement for more than 40 years. Crucially, as WDRB reports, felony custodial interference in Kentucky carries no statute of limitations, meaning even after 42 years, this case could still be prosecuted. That's the arrest. But the bigger shock was yet to come for the person at the center of it all, the little girl who is now a 46-year-old woman. Her name is Michelle Newton. And until late November 2025, she was living in Marion County, Florida under a different name with no idea about her past. According to WLKY TV, which first broke this story, police went to her home after identifying her mom. Michelle described what happened next in her own words, quoted by WLKY TV. Quote, "You're not who you think you are. You're a missing person. You're Michelle Marie Newton." In an instant, her entire identity was shattered. She told WLKY, quote, "I didn't realize I was a victim until I saw everything I had missed." What she had missed was a family in Kentucky that never stopped looking for her. The most important person waiting for her was her dad, Joe Newton. He had last seen his daughter when she was just 3 years old. The reunion was arranged. Joe Newton described that moment to WLKY in a powerful, emotional quote. He said, "I wouldn't trade that moment. It was just like seeing her when she was first born. It was like an angel." He also told the TV station, "She's always been in our heart. I can't explain that moment of walking in and getting to put my arms back around my daughter." And Michelle herself is now navigating an impossible situation, caught between the father who searched for her and the mother she knew, who now faces very serious charges. She outlined her intention clearly to WLKY, saying, quote, "My intention is to support them both through this and try to navigate and help them both just wrap it up so that we can all heal." Join us now to talk more about this. Someone who knows a lot about cold cases, Troy Hillman, retired police sergeant. Thank you as always for being with us here on Law and Crime. This story, over 40 years, to see it come to this conclusion, you know a lot about cold cases. Just what stood out to you, I guess, just reading through this, seeing that body camera video?
It's amazing to me how these authorities, they never gave up. And there were many different players involved. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, there were the authorities, and there were federal authorities, state authorities, local authorities, and they all kind of worked together. And then you had Crime Stoppers with the tip line. So you just had all these things kind of slowly coalescing, I guess, and eventually it came to fruition that the woman was apprehended.
And for this one too, I think when, and often the cold cases that get attention, like a John Benet Ramsey type case, a case where someone loses their life. And in this case, it's a woman who takes her daughter and then they kind of just vanish or get off of the radar of their family back in Kentucky. How common are these types of cases?
I think they are common, but it also seems like they're eventually, it unravels within a certain amount of time, that they don't go on for decades like this one did.
And with that, because, part of the story for me is you have the victim who doesn't even really realize that she is a victim. And it's this person who's lived this separate life. I guess what are those moments like? I mean, how do you even get, and how important is that person from an investigation standpoint? You make this discovery, this is what we believed happened, but then if there's still a conviction down the line, you would need, I assume, some sort of cooperation from her. How could that, I guess, factor into all of this, is that she's still coming to terms with her role in this?
Yeah, I can't imagine being blindsided in my 40s by this kind of information. And it's also, she's kind of been cheated of access to her father and that side of the family for decades. So yeah, I'm not a psychologist, but I would think that it'd be kind of a heavy toll to kind of wrap your head around, and she'll have some kind of digesting to do. But yeah, it is important for her to be kind of involved, and it sounds like she is, and she wants to, from what I read, basically she wants to support both sides. But I don't know what'll unfold in kind of animosity towards her mother for keeping her from all these years.
And you think over time, like emotionally, it's one of those things, there's the shock and then you start unpacking everything, and I'm sure there will be a lot of moments from her life that will hit her over time. In a case like this, where you have people that look, over the course of 40 years, we're just going to look different than we did, 40 years prior. What type of challenge does that pose when you're trying to find someone? And even in cases that you've done, if it's even a murder case, you're trying to find someone who's accused of a terrible crime, but they look so different than what the description was back in the day and even before technology. How do you work through that?
Fortunately, technology actually has come a long way where they can do age progressions and with using current technology, computers, that kind of thing. So that does help, and then to be able to get that out to the public is kind of a secondary. But it is definitely cold cases are riddled with challenges, and just because of the time and then the proximity of where a person could be hiding. It could be anywhere in the country, if not internationally. So there's just so many challenges and hurdles, but it kind of it warms my heart to hear this kind of story where everything kind of unravels to the point where she was apprehended.
Right, absolutely. How accurate, I've always wondered this, because we do see those age progression pictures. Oftentimes it's children and it's, oh, what's this child going to look like today? How accurate have you found those to be?
Pretty accurate. They use a lot of, now they're getting into actually using DNA to do the phenotyping, which can tell just different types of things and kind of progress that with age. So I've been impressed, and I actually work closely with a forensic sketch artist who did computer modeling and that kind of thing on some of our cases. So yeah, they've come a long way, but it's still not 100%.
Right, and yeah, it's just always one of those. I mean, especially now as like AI, we'll see, but it's fascinating. I mean, this story just blows my mind for so many reasons. When you find, and this woman's not accused of murder, but you find someone who's accused of this crime has probably in her own mind lived this double life for 40 years and thinking that, okay, this case is done. It's never going to get, they'll never find me. I guess what typically have you found to be in the minds of people who are guilty of crimes, and we'll see what the the legal process as it plays out, but what have you found just, I guess, in the mindset of people who are able to outrun the law for so long until eventually they're caught?
I think some of them have kind of a narcissistic view of, hey, I'll never, the police are overwhelmed, they'll never figure this out, it's just been too many years. But each one of these stories that comes out on a cold case really resonates the fact that the majority of agencies around the country are not giving up, and that they're working together, and new technology and things are coming about. And you better be looking over your shoulder, or you better turn yourself in, because the long arm of the law will eventually catch up to you.
And just for you, because I know you've worked a lot of cold cases, is there just a look on someone's face you think of when that person is almost, not in this case, but just in general, it's kind of, you've cracked it, you have them, and you can see in their mind that they've realized that this lie for however long that they've lived is over?
Yeah, it's I mean, I hate to say it, but it's kind of priceless. It's a look of dumbfounded that, again, I think they think that the police have given up and or are too dumb to figure this out. So they just are really in shock and trying to process that and figure out kind of what their next move is.
And in this case, it seems like her family never gave up. Her family in Kentucky, and you see you just can't imagine. I mean, you lose 40 years of life, with someone and the memories that you could have made, and instead you keep fighting. And in this case, there's a happy ending to it. But with some of these cold cases, no matter what the crime is, I mean, what role do families play in keeping the attention on some of these stories? Because I'm sure for police departments, I mean, there's so many other things, the crimes of the day that might, take precedent over something that's just been buried for so long. I mean, what role are families in this, along with, the agencies that do commit resources to cold cases?
Yeah, I think the families are a massive partner with law enforcement agencies, but I also kind of put a caveat that it needs to be a kind of a professional relationship, meaning families have to realize that there are so many cases that detective and or squad are working on at one time. So, a daily phone call saying, what's the status of my case, may may overwhelm the detectives, but like I said, a good relationship, a meeting every 6 months, a year, checking in. To me, that's important. Is for families to be involved, but it needs to be a very professional, understanding relationship, understanding what kind of detectives are up against, but also advocating for your loved one's case.
How do you balance that? Because I'm sure if you're a detective, and even in a place like Louisville, where this happened, that's a very busy city when it comes to crime at times. And we've seen high profile cases there. And in this case, we're not talking about a murder. We're talking about a mom who took her daughter and they just kind of vanished and disappeared. When you look at cold cases, and there might be one, that unsolved murder from years ago, I guess not how often these happen, because I know we talked about that, but just how difficult is it for a case like this to continue to get attention when you have, in some ways, more severe crimes where people lose their lives that are happening on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and I always say it depends on the leadership. If you have the support of the top leaders and the kind of the city, town managers, and from the top down, that realizes the importance of not giving up on these cold cases at the year mark, where typically they go cold and just the original investigator kind of puts them aside, unfortunately, because they have to move on. So I think if you have that top-down support, and also, like we just talked about, the families calling in saying, hey, what's the status? And that we're not going to give up. Let's put this out there to the media. Let's review this case. So I think it's very important. But yeah, it is hard, because in this case, it is not a deceased victim, but you did have a missing victim that were never able to locate. So it could have been she was dead, or we didn't know. Luckily, she's alive and thriving, so which is great.
When it comes to DNA, because I think for those of us on the outside, we just kind of take it for granted. I mean, that's probably also the result of movies and TV shows where it seems like DNA comes back in 2 seconds and it's like, okay, that's it, case solved. When you're trying to figure out if someone is who they say they are from 40 years later, I mean, what does that actually look like?
Well, I think in this case, they basically compared her DNA, and they must have done it surreptitiously, to her sister's DNA, which gives a pretty close, sisters would have a very close match in terms of DNA. So they would have enough at that point for probable cause to make the arrest, and then they would later confirm the DNA with the actual mother, so arrestee. So to me, they did it right. It sounds like they just kind of nailed it. And DNA is so powerful, we really can't dispute it. It's like, hey, you're this person, and you're related to this woman, and this is who you are, and you're related to the daughter.
What did you make, I guess, just watching, going back to kind of those priceless moments when you see somebody's face, and in this case, it's the woman being arrested. I guess for you, what stood out to you about her demeanor?
Well, I think she was trying to save face. With it sounded like she was denying it, say something about they're coming for the dog, or and just to me it seemed like it was shock, but she was still in that denial phase of trying to kind of say there's no way this is really happening. They didn't figure this out, but they did.
For you, and I know you've solved cold cases, for the families of victims, and I think of this dad, I think of this family that they kept going for 40 years, and then they're finally able to solve this case. What is that moment like, to be able to deliver that type of news to a family that has been, hoping for justice one way or another for so long?
I think you can never give that time back, but you can give them, from a law enforcement perspective, you can give them answers. You can give them some form of what I call delayed justice. People say, well, closure, but to me, you can't give them per se closure, but you just give them answers, and like I said, you give them delayed justice. So I think that's so important, and to me, that's why I really got into the position and really was so passionate about it, because you have these families waiting and waiting and waiting for years, and finally, if you're able to knock on their door and tell somebody, hey, we found out what happened, we got the bad guy. To me, that's priceless, and it just speaks to what really the police are doing kind of behind the scenes that sometimes the public doesn't even know about.
And in whether it's a murder, whether it's something like this, I mean, in your experience, typically what is it that can lead a case cold?
Basically, if what drives the case to cold is if there's nothing else to test DNA wise, there's no new technology to apply. Basically all the leads have been checked out, and it's just really stalled out. But there are other things that you can go in and try to revive the case, like they did in this case, which put it out to the media, Crime Stoppers, which was huge. So there are always, we never gave up on cold cases. There's always different tools to apply. Some cases were more fruitful and had more things to work on. Other cases, unfortunately, were not as fruitful, but you never give up. You never get rid of the evidence, and you keep trying, because you never know. We had somebody walk into our headquarters and basically after 30 years say they killed this man, and everything lined up. And to me, that was almost like a fish jumping into the boat.
Right.
And I remember getting the call from my detectives, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And they said, "Yeah, this guy, found Jesus, and he wants to give himself up," and everything lined up. So you never know, and that's why I always tell family members, don't give up hope, and keep trying.
Yeah, no, I mean, and in this case, truly an example of not giving up hope. Troy Hillman, retired police sergeant. Thanks for being with us here on Law and Crime. I know you have a book out that talks about some of your experiences, and you have a lot of them when it comes to cold cases. What do people need to know about it?
The book's called Chasing Down the Zombie Hunter. It's about how I built an elite cold case team, and we worked 3.5 years to track down a serial killer here in Phoenix, Arizona, who everybody presumed was dead, but he was alive and well. But we kind of chronicle, and I kind of put you in the passenger seat to follow a cold case squad as we kind of work this case for, like I said, 3.5 years. And it's available on all retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's also, you can check out my website, troyhillmancoldcase.com.
Yeah, and really powerful stuff there. Certainly a powerful case here that we've been talking about out of Kentucky and Florida. Troy Hillman, retired police sergeant. Thanks for being with us in Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Have a good day.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.